Welcome to Gruber Motor Company. What we have here are a collection of Tesla Roadsters, which is really the first Tesla vehicle made. Most of the cars that you see up here on this rack system are parts cars. And sadly enough, we buy these cars and sometimes they're restorable and oftentimes they're not, and they are saved for parts. This car here, for example, runs and drives. It came out of Chicago. This is the worst part, what you see here. The rest of it, except for the cracked windshield, is very much intact. This has a good battery. The range on this is about 170, 180 miles. And the only problem with this car is it will never be put back on the road, because if you look down in here, you can see that the aluminum frame is damaged. In fact, there's a piece ripped out of it. In order to put a car like this back on the road, you would have to basically strip everything off the car, get a new subframe, and put it back together, and by that time it's no longer cost effective. This car actually runs and drives, except for the mangled steering linkage that you see there, the control arm. Here we have another car. This one came out of Denver. We just happened to be buying midnight blue cars lately, it seems. This car has an even better battery than that one. Some of the minor damages, you can see there's a cracked windshield there. Of course, the fenders and the front nose cone were destroyed in the front end collision. And unlike the one that you just saw, this one does not have any frame damage, so this one is restorable. Here at Gruber Motor, we collect parts, and up in that corner there we have 5 nose cones for these cars. They're actually OEM nose cones, not nose cones taken off of parts cars. So they're brand new, in other words. So this car will probably see the road again at some point in the future. The other cars that you see around this facility here, there's some inside, outside, and another building, are Tesla Model S's. And this one, for example, is a 100D. This car, I don't know if you can see the angles and see with the lighting, see the quality of the paint. This car had less than 700 miles on the ticker when it came to us. You can still see the Tesla delivery sticker in the back window. This was a flood damaged car. Someone in Louisiana was driving down a street that had flooded with rains, nothing related to hurricanes at that time, and there were 4 inches or 6 inches of water in the road, and it looked like the road was wide enough to pass on the right. What was invisible to the driver was a 4-foot drop in a culvert, and this car actually went into the culvert and listed at 45 degrees, so this portion of the car was underwater. We've developed enough expertise to where we can tell where the water lines on these cars, these flood damaged cars, are, what has been affected. And what we do is we repair or replace the electronics that are affected by the water damage. Unlike an internal combustion engine car where you have water getting into nooks and crannies and engine compartment, transmission, creating rust and havoc, these Tesla Model S's aren't as sensitive to water damage, especially if it's fresh water. Salt water is a whole different animal. The rest of these cars are all Model S's in this building here, and you can see they're in various stages of reconstruction. If you sight down here, you can see some nice color variations. We did have blue to maroon. What you're seeing here is a service center that is still under construction. We've only been in this building for about a month and a half. We're still putting in the infrastructure. And here's an interesting car. This is the 69th Model S ever built. This is VIN number 69. It's a 2012, and back then it had no badging. They came with 21-inch wheels. We are close to having this car back on the road as well. We still have parts to move into this building. Eventually these shelves will be stored with Model S parts. As you can see, here's a portion of the front end. Over in that section there we have seats. There are Tesla Model S trunk sections up in that portion there, and we have some doors that we're beginning to store in this building. And eventually this will be filled up with Tesla parts. We have a machine shop here that's evolving right now. In order to work on cars like this, it's not always just electronics. You also have to machine parts, and that becomes even more important when you consider that Tesla will not sell you parts for salvage cars. So some of the parts we either end up sourcing gray market or we end up making ourselves. Chargers, for example. These are the defective chargers that we remove from cars. These will go through our module repair area, and an attempted repair will be made. The ones wrapped in plastic are gray market chargers that we've procured from vehicle scrappers, and those end up going back into cars as well. The titanium Model S that's under, or that's being serviced right now, has a suspension issue, and we're calibrating the suspension for this car. Another interesting car is a white Roadster here. This one actually came to us from Florida. It's a Puerto Rican owner. This is an R80 car. Apparently before they put the R80 nomenclature on the back here, on the newer ones they would put an R80 here. This battery, even though it's fairly new, ended up getting bricked. The lesson there is just because you have a new battery in a Roadster doesn't mean that it's immune to being bricked. And we are recovering this battery pack currently, so the owner can continue to drive his car. It came to us completely dead, and we have it to the point now where it's coming back to life and it's communicating with us. The Mercedes that you see here is probably the only non-Tesla car in the building right now. And what we're doing with this car is the same thing we do with the Model S's. It's a flood damage car, internal combustion engine car. And because of the expertise that we've acquired in repairing the electronics in cars like this, both internal combustion and Teslas, we have customers that strategically buy flood damaged cars, usually higher end, and bring them to us to have us work our magic on the car. Things we stay away from are engine rebuilds and transmission rebuilds, but anything electronic is definitely our forte. In the front area here, which is under construction and not yet completed yet, is our module repair area. And what this will eventually be is some modular furniture here, and then workbenches all around the rest of the room. And this is where we repair power electronics modules, the Tesla Roadster PEMs. Here's some of the Mercedes parts, and you can see how bad some of these parts actually end up looking after they've gone through a flood. This is not repairable, but it certainly gives us an idea what to order and what to source. Down here we have a Tesla Model S power electronics module, or the electronics portion of the inverter that converts the DC to AC for a Model S. And it's a substantially different design than the power electronics module, which we have one of in the corner here. This is a first generation 1.5, therefore it's a bit wider than the next generation 2 and 2.5. We crack these open and we repair them. We rebuild them. We replace all of the wear components inside these power electronics modules. So again, everything you're seeing right now is under construction. Give us another month or two and this will look like an electronics lab. We have a customer service area here, which is still evolving. Here we have some Tesla Roadster headlights that have delaminated the clear coat, and what we've done is restored the finish, removed all the flaking clear coat, and converted this to a high intensity LED headlight.